So good afternoon, everyone. I mean, it's a pleasure for us to speak after such a prestigious company like P&G. We are a much smaller company compared to P&G. We are roughly a $7 billion US company. We are of course listed company, and we have a market cap of about 24 billion US dollar. Essilor is a company which is doing only in optical lenses, okay? And the good thing is that all of you in the room, one day, you will become our customers. Okay? Some of you sooner than the others, but you will one day become our customer. So I just like to start with a small video about our mission, because what passionates us in Essilor is our mission. So I want to take you through our mission first, so that you understand what we are doing in Essilor and why we are doing it.
What is Essilor? It's a pioneer with 160 years of innovation, research and manufacturing to provide vision solutions to the world. 55,000 dedicated employees serving more than 400,000 eye care professionals. But it's something more. It's a company with a mission. Our mission is Greg's vision that demands performance at all times. Tanya's vision, because a bright future requires clear learning. George's vision, who is 70 years old and still has much to do. Our mission is everyone's vision. 4.3 billion people in the world with vision issues who can count on us to help them have a better life. Because reducing that number is the best objective we can achieve. At Essilor Group, we believe we can improve lives by improving sight. Essilor, seeing the world better.
Okay, so as you have heard in this small movie, today out of the 7 billion people living on Earth, about 4.3 billion, they need a vision correction. Unfortunately, we see that only 1.8 billion are having a kind of correction to see better. So you still have 2.5 billion people without any vision correction. And all those 2.5 billion people are not only living in very undeveloped countries. You know, if you look at United States, which is not an undeveloped country, 40 million people are needing vision correction, and they don't have. So we have, of course, a very, very big market potential in front of us. We have also, with this vision, with this poor vision correction, it's the poor vision correction. Sorry, it's the largest handicap in the world. And the funny thing is that there is a solution for everyone at any price point today. It requires a little bit of innovation to address this, but solutions exist everywhere. The market in front of us is great, and it grows with many factors. First, it grows with, of course, demography, because the population on Earth is growing. It grows also with the urban population. More people are living in the cities, more myopic they are. You know, and this is Singapore is the world capital of myopia. 80% of the population is myopic. 30% of children 5 years old in Singapore start to be myopic. When they reach 18, 80% of the children are myopic, which is a concern, including for the Air Force. They are having a hard time to find pilot without glasses. So, of course, the vision, the industry is also helping to grow the market. We have vision impairment, myopia, as I explained before. Presbyopia, when you get 40 or 45, you become presbyope. So you need glasses. That's why I said that all of you will become a customer later on. And some people are having problems who have cataracts or AMD, which is called, we will see later, by some rays or some light which is coming to your eyes. So we have a lot of levers which makes our market going. Now is how are we capturing this? How do we innovate to capture this big potential? Market grows also with GDP, very well correlated. You see, it's almost aligned. When the GDP grows, the consumption of our product grows, both in volume and in value, at the same pace with the GDP. Okay, 80% of the vision correction needs are made with spectacle glasses. Little bit with contact lens, some other solution, but 80% with glasses. Okay. So now I let Philippe a few days, and I will take after. Go ahead.
Okay. So as you can see, it's a large, it's ocean of opportunity, and what we have seen and the demonstration, we say that our industry is very fragmented because players are multiple. They were spread off all around because of the nature of the relationship we have with our customer. The industry, our product is also highly technological. Initially, we saw, basic lenses can be produced at a cheap price, and you see when you go to your optical shops, it can also be very expensive when you request, what we just mentioned, the personalization, which is one of the major impact on the industry, that we personalize all the lens to everybody. That's also something we have to work on. And the last part also is the distribution channel. We have an industry where there is a retail shop that you have seen, but now we start to see also the chain store, which is a different approach from the independent to the large one. We do have also the different nature of the business, which is linked to also the online appearing now. Singapore is still new, but in other markets, like we see in North America or in Europe, we start to see the online business arriving. So it's a bit of for us a challenge coming from being initially just a lens manufacturer to move now to integrate all this shift and a new paradigm coming in the market, to be adaptable and innovative, to capture the growth and the opportunity, because the topics of the talk was innovation for growth. So as you have seen. So when we look at the different levels that Essilor has designed, and still around the mission, I think maybe that's something which is a bit innovation, is that we drive now all partly about strategy and the technology objectives, the consumer approach, the geographical growth, mainly to try to satisfy this mission, because we saw that it's good to satisfy growth, it's good to please the shareholders, but it's also good to have at least a certain satisfaction. And that's part of our business and industry linked to that. So on the geographical way, how we can be innovative when we have to touch about geographical approach. So we know that there is growth driver, as we mentioned to you, is to capitalize on the usual market, which is a more mature market, where we have advanced product. After that, we have at least all we can enter is what we call mid-tiers, which is a segment of the population who cannot afford the high-end and the big, the branded product, but also we can satisfy their needs. And after that, there is the entry market, which is what Patrick touched with the uncorrected people as well, how we can capture and satisfy their needs. We need to define, be able to adapt to all the business models. So from the usual way to say, I receive an order, I produce it, I deliver to the stores, we have now to be integrating the full chain, which is from the research and design to at least also the consumer behavior. So that's something which is also a challenge for us, but that's also the excitement of the innovation. Integrated also new product that you were not so much, the sun, and I think Patrick will mention that later. The healthcare is also linked to the fact that in an environment where there is a lot of suns, we do have, unfortunately, action on our eyes, and we need to be a bit more innovative the way Essilor is approaching this market. And partnerships, I will touch that in the next slide. We have a business model which is mainly linked to partnerships. We have a lot of joint venture and association, and that's something which is a bit innovative compared to others. Usually in a business school, you maybe learn that joint venture always fail, and I should say that we do have at least a business model who demonstrate that partnership and joint venture is a solution for growth. The other part is the new countries. We are not present in many countries. As you can see, Africa is the large part of it, so it's something we need to reconsider. Definitely the way we approach the European market and the Asian market is maybe different in Africa, so we have to be innovative to understand which ecosystem we are, what kind of economy we need to build up, and what is the best and innovative way to bring our product and our solution, as Patrick mentioned, any price for any customers, and that's where is the challenge. And the last one, what we expect is that with this approach, geographical, technological, and after new countries, we should be able also to sustain growth, because we know indirectly the bigger we are and the growth will drive us to be able to be more innovative and support our action. So we do have also to address how we can be more innovative in a place where there is no stores or no way to do the eye care exam. So just some example which are quite known now. In India, we have two different activities. A small van which is going through Indian countryside and doing not only the eye check, but also providing equipment at a relative affordable price, because I think we discover also that people like to buy. It's something that they spend around 1 week of their annual salaries to buy their equipment, but that's a constant everywhere in the world, so that's an interesting approach. We also, in the iMitra, train people who start without any job, who become at least the basic optic knowledge, and after that can sell the equipment and start a business. So overall, at the end, we also, through this kind of inclusive activity, help our business to grow and creating also the distribution. We need to know that in many countries, and India is one example, when in a Western country you have one shop for 7,000 people, in India, you have one shop for 80,000 or maybe 100,000. So it's a big challenge for us. Our products are needed, but if we're not able to bring the product to the consumer and to the needed, it's very difficult for us to make. So we have to be innovative in a way how we approach this challenge. And China, it's also another thing, mainly considering on aging population, young population, or we can create either awareness or eye caring. Brazil is a similar. So you see that we have to change the usual business model. The strip-like chain that we have designed for Western country and advanced country maybe doesn't work for this kind of country. So that's where permanently we have to rethink and redesign our activities. Strategy is mainly linked, and I think if you have questions on that, Patrick will reply, because he spent most of his time now to develop this part of the business, is finding the right partners in a very segmented market to be able to help us to support our approach. So we do have 45 acquisition and partners since 2011, which are growing our business and at all levels of the value chain. So it is from finding the partner who can provide us the lens which will be affordable for certain market, finding the prescription lab, which is in fact where we do the personalization of the lens, which is mainly local lab serving shops. So that's also the challenge that we face. And we know that we need to grow, and we need to grow with the same level of engagement and characteristic they have to help us to satisfy the mission and also the strategy that we have designed for the country. And we cover that now in readers and sunglasses, which is also a new approach for us to cover the full spectrum that Patrick mentioned to you. Reaching the consumer, so we are not as known as P&G, so maybe you don't know even our brand, so that's part of the challenge that we face. I don't know if many of you know Desilor before we did the presentation. Because you are a good student, we went on internet to check who we are, is that right? But before you did this exercise, I'm not so sure you know who we were, but that's okay. and you can see that on this pyramid where we see the population, we do have branded which are well known. I mean, Nikon is known for the camera, but it's also our high-ranking brand for the top of the market. And we have Varilux, Crizal. So what we also see is that there is different approach versus the consumer brand and what we call the trade brand, which is trade brand is what is the lens that we can provide to shops which are in the mid-tiers. We can also find product for the needed. And this requires also that innovation is almost pushing on both sides. We don't only work on just the top brand. Innovation is not just for the top, but it's also for all the categories. So we do have to the needs to find the best value versus quality of the lens according to the segment of the market. And that's part of the interest and the challenge, and that's where the partners, as you can see, are bringing value to this strategy. We do have now also two initiatives, which is how we can touch the consumer. We don't have shops, so that's part of our challenge, because so we work mainly with initiative with retailer, how we help the retail to be stronger, to develop specific approach to be able to capture all the consumer needs through the product range, through the communication. We just opened last week, even this week, a center in Singapore where we are going to train the retail, which is called the International Vision Academy, where we know that there is a strong effort to do. The product become more sophisticated, we need to train the people, and we also need to train all these new people coming to the industries. And on the other side is the online. It's new for us, but we know that there is things changing. It's also a way for us to have a direct contact with the consumer, and it's important because as soon as you know their needs, you are more able to adapt your R&D to satisfy their needs as well. There is a consequences to that, and where we need to go. We need to go into BLC is that you need to spend more money. So I should say that there is no innovation without money. And that's part of the challenge for us, but we don't innovate and we don't touch the consumer without spending more. You will see later that we spend in R&D, but we also spend in consumer communication because it's part of the things we bring the customer to our product as well. Okay, so the consumer, we know that consumer will help to push innovation because it's a way also to market the value that we have in a lens, because when you look at two lenses, they look the same. Through the proper communication, they will be able to identify what product for what needs and what is added value and all the benefits of the product by itself. So for us, it's a way to push also and to accelerate the categories that you want to create, the high-end, the branded, and the sun, and other categories. It's a way also to develop and to protect the value of the brand. So sometimes when you see two lenses, one can be at $6, the other one can be at $600, so you have to justify what is the difference. And it's also for us a way to reinforce the strengthness of the company, because if you are not strong enough, you will never be able to accomplish our mission. So that's also the things where we have to work on. Doctor.
Okay, so thank you, Philippe. So in our industry, in our business, you see, the people are our customers when they start to be 3 until 85 for some of them. So it's very important, and at each stage of the life of the people, we have different type of vision problem to correct. So let's say here on myopia, clearly it's for the whole life, because you get myopia, it will develop, but it will stay forever. Then afterwards, you have that when you start getting a bit older, at 35, 45, you start having a little bit of reading problem. This is previa, and this is where personalization comes. So we have to innovate how to make for everyone a very special product, because every customer, every consumer is different. It's different from the shape of the eye, it's different from the size of the eye, it's different from the center of rotation is different the way you read. Some people, they read by moving the eye, some people, they read by moving the head. So all this, you have to take all this into consideration to design the lens. So now we can develop lenses which are absolutely personalized and adapted to each individual. New things, because of technology, now we can enter with the lens another area of business. Until now, you were buying a pair of spectacles to correct vision. More and more, we discover and we bring to the market product. We are doing more than just correcting vision. We are bringing product which can protect against some lights, like the blue light. And the blue light, for instance, is the cause of what we call AMD. This is something which is not happening today, but it happens when you get something like 70, 75. but this is something which is accumulating in your eye over all your life, mostly when you are a child, then it stops when you are 18, and it starts again when you are 40. So by cutting those very bad lights, I would say you can prevent that. We discover a lot of things. Sleeping disorders, you can correct with glasses. Okay, migraine, you can also do something with glasses. So all this now, so we have a lot of innovation just because of that. So glasses now are becoming something much more than just an instrument to correct your vision. Now we discover also that when you get really older, when you are senior, you have special needs which you don't have when you are younger. Now you have what we call really the protection against the sun, against the UVs, against the rest. So we have a lot of here, and all this is all around, and all the product we bring here, it's around innovation. You see, innovation, if I say innovation is this kind of S-curve, what we believe we are today, we are roughly here. And you can see here, all this here is innovation about just the lens, about the design of the lens. And because of technology, we could make the design more and more sophisticated by bringing more features to the lens. But you see, now we start appearing some other things. You know, prevention, protection, like I was talking before, personalization, and all this. So we are roughly, I would say, at half of what we believe is the potential of innovation in our industry. Okay, so we still have a lot of things, and of course, technologies and all this help us to innovate more. So all this innovation, you know, goes, and you have many things. Innovation is the most important, and I would agree with our friend of PFG. The basic thing is product. You know, you can have the best marketing, the best communication. You can put millions of dollars, $100 million. If you have a shitty product, forget it. It will do it. Okay. So it's very simple. It starts with product. So we need to, but it's not enough. We need to afterwards. You need to demonstrate that all the money you have spent in R&D to come up with this beautiful product, you can sell it. And most important in our business, unlike P&G, where you go to, or like Coca-Cola, you go to a shop, you take your bottle of Coca-Cola, thank you very much, you pay, you go. In our business, we have a very important hurdle to go over is the eye care practitioner. Because the consumer is not a finished product. So when you buy a pair of glasses, and some of you hear that, what you do, you go to a shop, then you have your eye tested, then you go to talk to the hopefully an optometrist. We will recommend you the best glasses for you, you know. And the optometrist is, I would say, the king. He would say, this is what you need. So we have first to convince the optometrist or the shop that our product is the best, and our product is the most adapted for the consumer. Because when you select your frame, you are the king. When it comes to glasses, it is the shop owner, the optometrist is the king. So we have to go to that's why we have a big challenge. That's why we try to innovate as much as possible to go and talk directly to the consumer. Because a very funny thing we discover when you talk to the shop and when you talk to the consumer, they have totally two different ideas. You know, the shop thinks that the consumer needs that, and when you talk to the consumer, they say, no, this is what I need. So we have a challenge there, okay, which we try to overcome. So it's so we need really to play with a lot of things. Now, of course, with online technology that help us to talk to the consumer, you know, and today. It's not very known, but Essilor is the biggest online company as far as selling of glasses is concerned. Okay, we have to use the design, you know, that's all around product, because the new technologies help us really to make design much more sophisticated than even 10 years ago. Then we say what we call the thin layer. Thin layer is a high tech, which is the same technology that you have in the electronic industry, where you pile layers on the top of a lens to cut the light, to prevent the light to prevent the lens to get foggy, to prevent the UV to go through. So on one lens you have up to 20-25 layers. Okay, so it's an high tech, and also technology helps us. So using all the ingredients here, we can innovate in a product. To innovate, you need to be close to your customer. You need to understand the market. You need to understand what is good for the consumer. So that's why we have splitted our R&D in the various parts of the world. So we have one in Europe, which is more on protection, prevention, design. In the US, it's about the same, more on layers and so on. And in Asia, in Singapore, we have a big R&D center, which is really dedicated on myopia, because myopia is the biggest developing vision impairment today in the world. And all your mobile phone, all your tablets, and all this, I can tell you, doesn't help at all. So please continue to use. Okay? So it's when you read on your iPad, let's say 1 hour before going to sleep, you lose 1 hour of sleep. So that's why we need to design lenses which help you to read your iPad and sleep well. Okay, so that's why we have all this. On top of that, we develop a lot of cooperation with various research centers in the world. So in Asia, we have a lot. We have in Australia, we have in China, we have in India, we have in Japan. We have another small R&D center in Japan. So we have a lot of R&D to develop a product. We invest roughly 187 million euro in R&D. So million euro, that's about $250 million. But what is important at Essilor, we invest more than our 10 competitors following us. Okay? To give you an example, Essilor, we are 6 times bigger than number 2 in the world. So we have a big gap between ourselves and everybody else. This is very good. What is very bad is that we have to stay there. Okay, so we invest a lot of money in R&D, and for all our innovation is around. This is how do we plan our innovation? We integrate all this. We integrate the network. Who is going to distribute the product? We integrate, of course, the consumer. Try to understand what they need. Then we tell them which kind of geography, what should we innovate to do a product for China or India. For instance, in China or in India, we design special product because we decide that when you give a product to an Indian and you give the same product to a Chinese, it doesn't perform the same because they don't read the same way. So you have to adapt it. So we have to innovate on that. That's why we call it. Our brand name is Varilux. We have Varilux China, Varilux Asia for Asia, and Varilux India for India. So we need to use also the technology. So we have to really have all those components, in a circle, and to connect all those dots so that we can come up with the right product. What is important, and I think Philippe touched it a little bit, is also, these 2.5 billion people. Of course, you have some people who are on the middle and the top of the pyramid, but a lot are at the bottom of the pyramid. So how do we innovate to address those people? So we have to innovate in terms of product. The basic product that you sell to a normal normal market, when it comes to the bottom of the pyramid, is totally different. You don't have the structure, you don't have the technology, you don't have the skill. So we make a very, very specific product, which you just did, clack, you clip, and you have the glasses. So we have to develop this very particular product at a very low cost, because we are addressing people with $1.5 a day of income. So, and if we say that a normal pair of glasses should cost roughly a week of salary, you know, so we have to make a pair of glasses for $5, you know. And by the way, if your glasses cost more than 1 week of salary, it means that you are underpaid. But if it costs less, it means that you are overpaid. Okay. Okay. So you see, so innovation, you know, innovation is a common. So we started. The first innovation in the Essilor started we are a 160 years company, but really the breakthrough started here in 1960. Then over the years, we have been permanently innovating, and innovation is part of our DNA. We are permanently innovating, not only, of course, in product, but we innovate in distribution, we innovate in terms of business model, we innovate in everything we can. We innovate in terms of new areas of activity. We can like that enlarge the field of our business, because we discover that because we have this kind of breakthrough, we can apply it in other segments of the industry. For instance, when you filter bad light, you not necessarily apply it only on corrective lenses. You can apply it also on a very basic pair of sunglasses, or you can even make a glass. You don't need a vision correction, but you can still have a pair of glasses to cut the light coming from your computer or from your iPad to protect your eyes. So it enlarges the field. So innovation helps us to enlarge the field of our business. So over the years, I think we have been recognized as an innovative company. We are today the number 49 ninth company in the world as listed by Forbes, you know, and we got over the years a lot of recognition for our innovation. So that's roughly, I will not go through, but this is roughly the performance of the company. So we are a successful. I can say that we are a successful a company, you know. And of course, you know, our innovation has to be very much supported by the people. We are, before being anything else, we are a people company. We are very, very people-oriented. We are very talent-oriented. So this is really the core of our strategy, is to have the best people, the best talent, because everybody knows that without the good people we cannot learn, and this is the good people who have innovation. And we have to bring people from many different horizons, many different cultures, you know, cross-cultural is extremely important to innovate. So I think you understood that innovation is really embedded in our organization, in every of us in Essilor. We are a very entrepreneur company, you know, and like many companies, we are not a very, I would say, process-oriented company. You know, we are very entrepreneurs. We have a lot of flexibilities in our operation. We have a lot of I don't know if I'm the word, but we have a lot of freedom, a lot of autonomy, you know. And I think this is a very particular to our company, which we discover over the years help us also to innovate a lot. So we try to have as less barrier as possible for innovation, and we work a lot in network. We are a very informal company where everybody talks to everybody, and that's also help to promote the our innovation. Okay.
I just wanted to show, just to finish.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Just because from the institutional message can say we are great, we are very good, but we do have a program with NTU for executive, and I see some of the faculty who participate to this program. And I just want to show you about what Patrick mentioned about how important it is to have the right people and to create to have people which are creativity, innovation, open-minded. So in one of the programs that we have with NTU, we give them a small session when they have to reflect and present what is the company. And the small movie I show you is what they did in 3 minutes. It's an open book. They just have to talk about, in this case, was what is Essilor. And they just did this by themselves without any storyboard and whatever it is, to give you an idea of not only is inside the strategy, not only inside the product, it's also inside the people. So it's not too institutional, it's not professional, but at least it's us. Very well organized, you can see. Okay, thank you.
Question for Patrick and Philippe.
Are you worried what Patrick said, that sooner or later you are going to be one of his customers?
Okay, thank you. Google have their glasses. So when will you have your Essilor glasses?
When? You know, the first quote unquote Google glasses, because which was developed was about 7-8 years ago in Essilor. At the time it was working still with what you call with a DVD, and you could see movie on the thing. So we have developed that. The problem today, if you ask me when we are going to have it, we are going to have them. When? I will not tell you. But we are going to have them now. But what we want to do glasses without this kind of I don't know, call it system you have in, because this is one very uncomfortable. We believe is not yet working very well, but we are not worried. They will make it work. But what we want to do a pair of glasses like this, which you can see the switch. I cannot tell you when, but not very far. Wait, but it's coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We're all your customers, and I agree. I've been your customer for many years.
But you're not today.
I have them right down here.
Okay, good.
How do you, as the CEO, ensure that your leadership team understands that it's their responsibility to ensure that the employees of your firm never see themselves as producing a commodity product?
How do this? But well, I think that is for them to see that it's not a commodity. I mean, it's all around. It's all around innovation. It's all around bringing to the market products which are, let's call it, kind of breakthrough to the industry, you know. And even if this is a business which is, let's say, 15% of the total business, because I would agree with you that the big part, at least of the volume, is commodity, it's extremely motivating for our people to have to sell a product which nobody has and which is a real breakthrough. You know, when you have somebody in one country in the world coming with a lens which got the blue light, which is a light creating AMD, and that is, I would say, something which is very motivating for him or for her, and it's also it's a kind of a, let's say, wow from the so it's motivation. How we keep our people motivated, it's innovation. This is how also we keep our company growing, because big part of our growth, of course, is coming from innovation. You know, I mean, we have roughly 40% of our business today is done with product which didn't exist 3 years ago.
Thanks. Is this working? There we go. So I'm similarly in a B2B business where your growth is sometimes limited by the growth of who you sell to. Ultimately, there's the end consumer. Particularly in Asia, where access to eye care is limited by the lack of eye doctors, optometrists, etc. Is there any business model innovation that your company is spearheading or piloting to innovate in that care pathway? I know in India there's a group called Aravind Eye Hospital who's been doing a lot of interesting things, not just with cataract removal, but in designing and developing lenses locally at the price that you had mentioned, like $5-6 for a pair of glasses. Is there anything that you guys are doing in that space, in business model innovation, that would be compelling to talk about?
Yeah, I think what we are doing, and you are talking about Aravind, it's a good example because the pictures you have seen is Aravind. So this is our partners in India, and we are working with them, and they are, you know, the model of Aravind is what we call the telemedicine. So the van you have seen on the picture shown by Philip is a van which goes to the villages where you have no eye care at all. You know, and they screen the population, and via satellite, you have an ophthalmologist seated somewhere in Madurai and looking at the eyes and doing the diagnosis. So this kind of thing. What is important, and I think that when you are in the B2B, and as you rightly say that, of course, we are limited to the growth of our customers. But it is our duty as a leader to increase the market. Increasing market means to increase the awareness of how important is vision care, how important is a good vision, you know. And this is very important. You know, poor vision today in the world costs the world economy $275 billion. $275 billion are lost in productivity just because of poor vision. An example in India, we have done a very interesting exercise going to a factory, textile factory, where we screen the whole employees, and the factory give them the proper pair of spectacles, the efficiency of the factory increased 34%. Okay, so so it is a whole to increase awareness. It is a whole to increase the market. That's why we need to go and talk more and more to consumer. And because of all the technology, you know, the internet and everything, you know, Facebook, Twitter, and all this, so we need to use this as much as possible to link to the consumer. You know, a very interesting communication we do in India. We tell the people in the village, who, by the way, for most of them, they have a mobile phone. And we say, hey, why don't you have something which help you to see what is on your mobile phone? Because we have discovered a lot of people, they have a mobile phone, they don't see what is on the mobile phone. So it is our responsibility to grow the market. So one way to solve the problem is to increase the awareness, two, to make sure the product is available close to the consumer. That's why we have developed this program called what we call iMitra in India, but in some other countries it's called another name. But we try to create small entrepreneur opening shop all over the country. You know.
Any other question? Okay, then I would like to ask Niranjan to come and thank Patrick and